It's a summer tradition for many families, jarring and canning fresh fruits and veggies from the garden. And if that's something that you're interested in, but you're maybe not sure where to start, maybe your mom or grandma did it, but you never really learned, well, our guest here, she has you covered. We have Julie Garden Robinson. And yes, that is your last name. I'm going to call you Gardner, I've learned, as your friends do. Joining us to talk about canning and some delicious recipes. So thanks for coming on today.
Well, thank you for having me.
And so I think a lot of people, it's nostalgic kind of to think about canning. You know, I think you have these images of times before and, you know,
Absolutely.
grandparents doing it and all that. But just want to talk about what are some of the benefits of having canned foods that you've done yourself?
Well, I think it gives you a really nice sense of pride, and it allows you to use what you've grown in your own garden. You can give it to your friends, but you also want to be sure that you're using safe recipes, and sometimes grandma's recipe isn't recommended anymore.
I believe that. And so we want to make sure that we're doing it safely. And so what are some of the ways that you can make sure that you are doing it safely? What are some of the tips that you have for people to make sure it is safe?
Sure. One of them, and a lot of people forget to do that, is to use an acidulant like citric acid or bottled lemon juice when you're canning tomatoes. Always use a tested recipe. You always want to go to a university source or another tested source. And when you're canning jams and jellies, you actually want to do a water bath step.
Oh, okay.
So many people don't do that, but I wish they would.
Yeah, it would probably be better. And it looks like, you know, here in front of, are these some of the recipes that you all have available for people to have?
Yes, we have a wide array of publications in nutrition, food safety, and health, and I just printed a few of them. So.
Yeah, so jellies and spreads. And so people can just go and get these recipes and printouts for free. Is that what it is?
That's right. They're on the NDSU Extension website. So if you just Google NDSU Extension food and navigate yourself to food preservation, you'll find all kinds of free resources.
Yeah, and you know what you're doing. You're a food nutrition specialist with NDSU, a lot of letters behind your name, so you know the best way to be doing this. But I know last year with the pandemic, everyone was sitting at home and they all thought, okay, I'll try my hand at doing this. And then you couldn't come by these if your life depended on it. So what's the status of them now? How's that going?
Well, the good news is that canning lids are coming back. I think they're going to find their way to us soon. I bought these locally.
Oh, good.
And we've been assured by the manufacturer that these two-piece lids are going to be available all around the country real soon. So they're there. It's just hard to get them from point A to point B.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's how it goes. I remember last year I had a bunch of friends actually who were into canning as well, and they're like, I can't get any lids. I had to go buy them off this weird place or whatever. But so you say we need to have these good research tested recipes like you can get for free on the NDSU Extension site. Where should we not look to get our information?
Well, be a little skeptical if you get them on Pinterest or sometimes on Facebook, depending on, you know, the source of the recipe. So just be cautious. And in fact, some of the lids that were being sold online were counterfeit, and they were not safe to use. So you want to be sure that you're using a trusted brand like Ball or Kerr. Bernardin is Ball's branch in Canada. So those are all safe, tested, and they will assure a good seal. And that's what you want, along with a tested recipe and following the process.
Yeah, because it can have some serious side effects if the stuff you're canning or jarring or whatever it is goes bad. I mean, there can be, if I'm right, some bacterial growth or something happening in there.
Yes, worst case scenario, and I brought along a jar of salsa. If you don't use a tested salsa recipe, because it's a mixture of high acid and low acid ingredients, you could have the makings for botulism toxin, which is our most deadly form of foodborne illness. And if you just follow the recipe, the tested ones, you're going to be fine. But sometimes people go off on a tangent and they'll add extra onions and celery or whatever they like. And you have to be a scientist when you are canning. You have to be a scientist.
You're dealing with the chemicals in the food and how they react to everything. And then, in the canner, they're heating up or cooling down or whatever you're doing.
Right.
And yeah, I didn't know all that. I just remember canning. I always wanted to hear the lid pop.
Yes.
That was the only thing I knew. You had to boil it, and then once it popped, you were like, we're all good to go. But apparently there's more to it now.
Yes, and if you want to can vegetables, you actually need a pressure canner. I didn't bring a pressure canner. I just brought a boiling water bath canner.
Okay.
But a pressure canner is needed for those low acid foods.
Okay, all the things to go over, and we are going to be making some of this salsa here, learning these tips of everything you need to know right after this break, so stay with us. We'll have the recipe, and we'll be making up a delicious batch right after the break.